Hey everyone, so I'm sure we have all seen our fair share of terrible roleplay, so in today's video we'll talk about 12 things you shouldn't do in a roleplay, and oh boy, we're in for a ride. Now before we continue, this is a very biased video. I don't hate roleplayers, and I'm not saying like, oh, if you do that, you are a bad player. No, I'm definitely not saying that. These are just some typical guidelines of what people prefer you not to do during a roleplay. So let's start with number one, and number one is die. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but I see a lot of role plays where someone dies and then they magically come back to life in another form or another character, and it's kind of weird to me. We're like, oh yeah, I broke my knee and I died, and now I'm back. This is where I'm at. So I'm now the teen sister instead of the baby boy or something like that. So stuff like that happens. People die in role plays, but sometimes it gets really dramatic. Number two is become a child and ask for a ton of money. Like, yes, you can ask for some pocket money and then like they give you $10, like the parents give you $10, but don't go and ask for a $10,000 or more. Just because you're role playing with someone doesn't mean you should exploit them and get all of their money. That's not the way role plays are intended to be played, and I've seen a lot of like players asking to join a role play just to come and beg for money every single day. Like they wake up, oh, can I just have like $1,000 for my bills? And then they're like, oh, and can I also have $5,000? I need to buy something on my plot. That's not a roleplay. That's just you begging in the form of a roleplay, and that's not what you should do. And then number three, and this one is so funny in my opinion, is go in build mode when your kids are outside. So there's some parents, when they roleplay, they forget to add something to their house and they quickly add something, and that's completely fine. Like if you want to add a toy or something like that, but some parents, they're like, I need to go in build mode for a second, and then they stay in build mode for 20 minutes, and the kids are just sitting on the street waiting for the parent to get out of build mode, which is quite funny because then the kids are just sitting there and everyone is just like, what is going on over there? Why are there so many people waiting at that plot? That is just the parent being in build mode, and the kids kind of get like desperate because they do want a house. So yeah, fun situations. I've been there. Number four, not paying your bills. I see a lot of role plays where they're like, okay, can we play in my house? My house is really cool and stuff like that, and then you go to their house and they haven't paid their bills and you cannot even use anything, and you're just stuck there in the dark with nothing around you because they wanted to roleplay in their house. And then you're like, okay, but can you pay the bills please, because it would be kind of fun in a roleplay to actually be able to use something. And they're like, yeah, I actually don't have money for my bills, so yeah, we'll have to live in the dark. No, just go to another house or work, deliver a single pizza and pay your bills. But don't let your kids live in the dark, please. And then number five is neglect your kid. I will come back to that in point number 12 as well. But there's a lot of parents that just like adopt as many children in the server as possible, or children that ask for parents and then they become super neglective. They just like go to their own house, and when the parents ask where they are, they don't even reply or something like that. They're like part of the family but not part of the family, and it's so annoying because like you always lose your kids or you lose your parents and then they're doing other stuff. Or like when the parent says, I'm going to work for a bit, and they end up working for like an hour and you're just sitting there in the house all hungry, all stinky. It loses a bit of realism when that happens, but yeah. Then number six, and this one is funny to me as well, is when people change to a different age without warning the family. So suddenly they're the baby, and then you go to work and you come back and they're an adult and they're just sitting in your couch right now. They're like, I'm the dad now. Weren't you my baby? And it's also super awkward because at one point they're like, agugu gaga, and at the other point they're like, I'm the dad now. You should listen to me. It really takes away like of the role play, and it's just a little bit weird. So make up your mind before you start role playing, and if you do want to change, after all, just mention it. Be like, okay, but I'm kind of bored. Can I change into this role? And I'll be like, I'm the dad now, when you were the baby like 2 minutes ago, which is super weird. And yeah. And seven is abandon your family to move to another one. I mean, we've all seen this. There's one roleplay in a Bloxburg server or wherever you roleplay basically, and then another family comes along and it seems like they are having more fun than your family is. So some people decide to just leave their family without a warning and join the fun family, and they start role-playing with them, and then suddenly the person of the other family is like, hey, but weren't you part of our family? And then they're like, you know what, I can be the grandpa, I can be the uncle, but I won't visit anymore. I'm out, bye. Like if you start a role play with someone, at least mention that you are quitting and moving to someone else's roleplay? I mean, it would be the nice thing to do, wouldn't it? Then number 8 and 9 kind of tie in together, but let's start with number 8, and that is adopt everyone in the server. When you do a roleplay with like 2 other players or something like that, chances are big that other players are gonna come knock on your door to ask to join. Make sure that you set your boundaries even if they act out or if they get angry at you, so that you do not adopt the entire server, because if you are a parent and you have 11 children, it is a nightmare, especially if there are some dramatic role players in there. You will not be able to handle it. If you can handle it, I mean, mad props to you. You are amazing, but I haven't seen a lot of people that can handle more than 4 kids at once. And be careful if the entire server comes up to not adopt everyone. I had that once. Oh my god, yes, that's a story. Wow. But I was role-playing with someone. I was like, I was the dad and I adopted a kid, and then suddenly another kid came knocking at my door. They were like, okay, yes, can I be part of your family? I was like, yeah, I only have 1 kid. I asked the kid if they were okay with it, and they were okay with it, so I said yes to that kid. And then suddenly 4 of their friends joined and randomly walked into my house. Like, the other kid that I just adopted opened the door and stuff like that for them. I was like, wait, do I have 5 children now? And they got super mad at me for not agreeing with that. Like, they started saying like, yeah, but I asked and you said yes and stuff like that. And it's like, these kids came out of nowhere and suddenly I had 4 children. I was not able to handle all of that, and I left. I rage quit. And then number 9, as I said, kind of ties in with number 8, adopt more kids than you have beds. A lot of people have like 2 beds for kids in their house, or teens, or baby beds. Make sure that when you adopt someone, you have a bed ready for them, or at least a room ready for them. I don't care if you have 2 children sleep in the same room, just have a bed for them. At least have that basic down. If you do not have a baby bed and there's a baby at your door and you want to adopt them, just quickly say, okay, but I'm gonna add a baby bed. Just don't say yes, and then let them sleep on the couch, because principles. And then number 10, and this is quite the sensitive one, but don't act violent in your role plays. So a lot of people, when they role play, it's a way to get away from their real life and play in a family that is made up. And when you act violent, it can sometimes trigger a reaction to a person because they are running away from their home situation. And it's not always like that, but a lot of people are in bad households, and role playing for them is kind of a way to get away from it and to learn to deal with stuff. And if you are acting violent, let's say yelling, slapping, kicking, whatever you roleplay as, just try to minimize it. If you want to punish your kid for doing something bad, find other ways than to use violence, because that is not the answer. However, I do realize that a lot of players are very young, and this is the only thing they see at home. So this is the only thing they know how to react to certain situations, but try to be careful using violence. And especially, and that really triggers me, and that brings me to number 11 as well. And number 11 is, when people roleplay, don't start a fight with the people who are roleplaying because you are against role players or something like that. I have seen it way too many times where people are peacefully roleplaying and they're doing perfectly fine, and then suddenly one person comes in and they're like, oh, you're so embarrassing, or stuff like that, or something even worse that I'm not going to say in this video. But just mind your own business, really. If the roleplay bothers you, close the chat. If you're just in a server to build, what's the point of you mingling into another roleplay? It's super toxic when you do that, and I don't even understand why you would try and stop their roleplay. If it really triggers you that much, either move to another server or close the chat. It's as simple as that. The game is for everyone to enjoy, and if you enjoy it while building, let them enjoy it while roleplaying. And then number 12 is, do not be a passive parent. I have seen a lot of roleplays where someone gets adopted and then the only replies they get is yes, no, yes. And then the kid is like, don't I have school today? Yes. Can you take me to school? Yes. Can we stop for ice cream? No. It's so dry. Or when they use one-worded sentences, like they tell their kid bed, toilet, diaper. Just, I don't know, it's so dry. It's kind of funny, but it's also super dry. When a parent doesn't even say anything, and then they're like picking up their kid and putting it in bed and not even saying goodnight, and then you're there like, am I supposed to do anything? Am I supposed to say anything? Honestly, wow. Amazing role plays. But as I said, these are very personal things. I just made that list up myself. If you get triggered by them, I am not responsible for that. But that is my opinion. If you have anything else that really triggers you when people roleplay, or when you are in a roleplay, please let me know in the comments below because I love to read them. I'm gonna leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button and please subscribe.